Hi, in today's lesson, we are going to learn Franz Kafka's story Unhappiness. Before that, let me give you a brief introduction of Franz Kafka. Franz Kafka was born in 1883 and died in 1924. He was born into Jewish family in Prague, today the capital of Czech Republic. Kafka is well-known short story writer and novelist of the 20th century literature. His work is based on realism and it features isolated protagonists who are difficult to understand because of their situation. He is well known for his narrative style in his stories. Kafka used themes of alienation, existential anxiety, guilt, and absurdity in his works. Alienation means a person who lives in isolation because of personal loss. Reason may be a death in the family, a job change, divorce, or leaving home for the first time. In short, person goes away from the society, friends, family, and remains isolated like alien. The term existentialism is related to human existence. A person generally tries to tackle questions and problems in front of one's life and faces crisis. The term absurdity comes from the word absurd, meaning stupid and unreasonable or silly in a humorous way. Absurdity is a philosophical term which describes meaningless approach of a character in literary work of art. These are the important terms which come in the whole work of Franz Kafka. Of course, these terms are applicable to his story Unhappiness too. Now let's see Unhappiness story. In this story, there are three characters. One is unknown narrator, child ghost, and the neighbor of the narrator. Actually, story revolved around mainly between the narrator and the child ghost. The story takes place in the apartment or building in which the narrator is living at the third floor. At the beginning of the story, we come to know that the narrator is alone and impatiently walks here and there in his room. He can hear only his own scream. Suddenly, child ghost appears there from the wall of his room, and conversation begins. It is slightly confusing to understand what is going on as they start their conversation. Narrator tries to make comfortable to the child ghost, but she directly rejects his protective behavior. Child does not care that someone would listen to them in the apartment. Later, child ghost disappears without completing the conversation. It seems that child is apparition of himself. The perfectly casual talk between the two symbolizes how conversation with creatures of the other world is much easier than with one's fellow being. In contrast to the shaky confidence of the narrator, the child ghost seems more in control of the situation. The real fear for the narrator is a fear of what caused the apparition. And that fear does not go away. I is isolated in his room, exploring further dimensions of inner space. One such is the reflection in the mirror, which seems to offer a further goal for his restless pacing. Another is the ghostly shadow self who appears in the form of young girl. By saying, "Your nature is mine," he admits that She is a projection of himself. He seems unsure whether he wants her presence or not. After she has gone, he has a conversation with a very solid neighbor who thinks wants to take his ghost away from him. He goes forlornly to bed, unhappy with the ghost or without it. Thus, Kafka depicts loneliness, anxiety, and human condition when someone suffers psychologically a lot. In short, he shows absurdity of life cleverly through the story Unhappiness. Thanks. Hi.